That's the bigger issue we're having right now is that it seems like Chris Boucher he doesn't weigh as much as the other centers, but he's still getting contact. He's still driving in. He's still going in, crashing the boards. He's still moving. He's still being engaged on the offensive end, which is so frustrating that our other centers can't even provide that type of effort. If your shot's not going in, okay, your shot's not going in, but it doesn't excuse the effort and the engagement that you put in. And that brings us to our main point about the season. We have absolutely no centers, right? Chris Boucher is playing our center spot. He should low-key be a power forward because he can't match up with
Chris Boucher or OG Anunoby are our centers, basically.
Or
Pascal. Like, again, when we signed Aaron Baines, I didn't expect Aaron Baines to be, 13 points a game or shooting 30, 40% from three and whatnot. I didn't expect that with Aaron Baines. But at least give me 80% of what you were doing last season. At least be able to hit layups, or at least be engaged enough on the defensive end that makes you at least playable.
Right? Side note about your point about Aaron Baines last season, I do remember he also got benched towards the end of the season for Phoenix.
But that's fine. So. But that still doesn't, excuse the fact that he's capable of playing better. You signed a $7 million contract to be a decent rotation player for us. But right now, you're not even in the rotation. Nick Nurse has lost so much faith in you to the point where the last 3 games, you haven't seen Aaron Baines play.
Yeah.
Aaron Baines has not played these past 3 games.
And that's led to Alex Len having to start. And, bro, no offense to Alex Len, he's pretty much a bench warmer in the NBA, right?
Alex Len, again, I'm not really too disappointed in Alex Len because, again, I didn't really expect much of the Alex Len signing. He was going to be a third-string center. The reason why Nick Nurse even started him against Portland was because of Jusuf Nurkic. Because Chris Boucher just can't handle that amount of physicality. And we expected Alex Len to handle it, but clearly he's not able to do that either.
Yeah, Alex Len is, we had no expectations for Alex Len, so for him to be disappointing, it's not really much for us. He wasn't expected to be a big $2 million
contract. It's not like it wasn't a huge investment we put in.
Back to our point about having absolutely no centers on this team besides Chris Boucher, this has led to the rebounding rate and the defensive ratings, both for the Raptors, just tanking, right? The rebounding rates are, the reason why we're down in rebounding is obvious, right? You have Chris Boucher as your center, man, your rebounding is not going to be good. But, our rebounding has been an issue for the past number of years, not just this year. Obviously, it's worse this year with no Ibaka and no Gasol. But that's been a reoccurring issue pretty much for the past number of years.
Shout out Boucher, man. Man can block everyone, yo.
Yeah. In terms of our defense, the reason having no centers like Ibaka and Marc Gasol for our defense,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it means that we're allowing offenses too many drives. That's number one. And then when they do drive, either they're getting right to the rim, or based off of the dribble penetration, they're getting wide open threes, right? And our Nick Nurse's philosophy on defense has always been to give up threes, but
aggressively close out.
Yeah,
because the Raptors have the ability to switch and be so good at closing out on shooters that it was never really an issue, which is why the Raptors had a top 5 defense in the past 2 seasons.
Yeah. And yeah, that's always been the philosophy for Nick Nurse. Him and Mike Budenholzer have been the 2 guys that have implemented that type of defense. Now the NBA is starting to catch up on that, where a lot more teams are trying to implement that type of defense more. But the problem is, with that defense, the main thing you got to start off with is contain dribble penetration. If you don't contain your dribble penetration, which is what the Raptors are allowing now, they're the 19th ranked defense at this point, where they've been a top 10 defense for the past number of years.
Top 5 even, man.
Yeah. You're allowing dribble penetration, you're going to get wide open threes off of that. Where you're already choosing to give up wide open threes, now you're getting even better quality wide open threes for the opponent, which is why their defense has tanked so much. Now, flipping things over to the offensive end, number one, losing a guy like Serge Ibaka gives us no release valve on the offensive end, right? We've seen for a number of years now, if we needed a bucket, or if the Raptors needed a bucket, automatic play, Lowry, Ibaka, pick and roll, right? So the mid-range. His mid-range is money.
Serge has gotten so much hate sometimes, especially in the Raptor fandom, for you know not being a great not being able to put up consistent numbers. But you know what's funny? I miss we didn't think nobody expected Ibaka to have this big of an impact for us. Remember, we gave up Terrence Ross for this guy, so we basically didn't give up much of anything. But we look who we got. We got a player that was literally he changes our offense. Yeah. He gives us another option to score. And you know what's funny with Serge? The decision making is so much better than we gave him credit for.
The thing with Serge, he over the past 2 years, I would say, really improved a lot in terms of what else he could do. His mid-range jumper was always good. He improved that.
The elbow, man.
Yeah, he became an even better 3-point shooter. But then to your point, the main thing that improved was his decision-making, his dribbling. Remember what the golden rule for Ibaka was? More than 2 dribbles, that's automatic
turnover.
Right? But he improved that. Last season, I saw him take 4
dribbles.
Four dribbles in possession, bro. He was taking 4 dribbles in possession.
And then he gets a wide open dunk, bro.
Exactly. And his threes also improved. But to our point about having a release valve like Serge Ibaka get us an automatic bucket in the mid-range spot, this has really hurt the Raptors in clutch time where they've... What was that stat you told me before when we were talking?
So the Raptors are 0-5 in games where they've led by 5 points or more.
Exactly.
In the fourth quarter.
So, and you've seen that, right? Every time you get to fourth quarter where it's been clutch time, the Raptors haven't been able to finish. A big reason for that is because you miss the presence of Serge Ibaka being able to get you automatic mid-range jumper.
And being an anchor on the defensive end.
Yeah, whereas now you have no in-between scorers, right? You have either 3-point shooters in Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, or you have a cutter in Pascal Siakam. And same with Chris Boucher. Either he's at the rim, or he's at the 3-point line spotting up. You don't have an in-between scorer. And we know in clutch time and in the playoffs, what becomes the most valuable portion of the offense is the mid-range. And Ibaka's money at that for getting the Raptors buckets. Now you're not going to have that.
Yeah, and again, it just comes back to the point where I think Raptor fans really undersold how valuable Serge Ibaka was to this team. And man, I miss him, man. I seriously, I miss having Serge on this team. But it also sucks losing Marc Gasol.
Yeah.
Marc Gasol hurts our offense because we lost a high post threat. His passing and his IQ was just so beyond any other player that has been at that center position that it just opened up opportunities. You know how good Norman Powell was last year? It was a lot of that had to do with Marc Gasol, being able to find him on back cuts and being able to take the load off Norm to create offense. Because when Norm doesn't have to create for himself, he's a good player. Norm can do some things. He can score. When you take a lot of the food off his plate, Norm can finish what he starts.
Yeah.
But
handoffs and stuff too.
Handoffs. And again, now you're forcing Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and Siakam to have the ball more. You're forcing these guys to create. Now Lowry has always been a creator, but now when Lowry's creating, Fred and Siakam are only offensive weapons, which again, for a defense, they know you shut these two guys down. It's basically you shut the team down.
There's so many possessions now where I look and our offense just stalls because of the fact that we don't have an outlet like Marc Gasol to just throw the ball to and let him pick apart a defense, right? And the problem with having guys like Kyle Lowry, obviously Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, their playmaking, I would not say, or their passing is not at the level that Marc Gasol's is.
Well, Kyle has some good IQ. Kyle always makes one. No, but here's the thing: chemistry. We can still see Kyle Lowry looking for Ibaka on that elbow jumper on the pick and pop, but there's nobody there.
Yeah,
and the bigs aren't playing well enough that Lowry can develop that chemistry with them.
And here's the thing too, right? Another point about Marc Gasol's passing in the high post. If you gave the ball to Marc Gasol in the high post, he's a 7-footer. He can see over the defense. He can scout the defense. He knows what to do. He can see the spots where he has to pass the ball. Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet are good passers, but they're 6 feet. Yeah. They're not able to see over the defense that Marc Gasol was able to see over, right? So now your offense becomes so much harder without a guy like Marc Gasol. And I'll say this to all the casual fans out there. Now you're seeing why real fans rated Marc Gasol so much.
So valuable, man.
You're seeing just the impact that he had.
The intangibles that he brings to your team is so amazing. But you know what? The one thing I do want to also say, since you brought up the casuals, y'all gotta stop hating on Pascal Siakam. This guy
Facts.
started off the season abysmally, and he admitted it himself. He played very bad. But you know what? This road trip, he has turned it around. This guy has been unstoppable. He had his first triple-double the other night against Portland.
Could have had one the other night.
Could have had one against Golden State. And again, a lot of people are going to be, hating on him for missing those two potential game winners. First of all, for that Golden State one, I don't blame that one on Pascal because he had 4 seconds left to bring the ball up the court, from the Raptors and to the Warriors end. And, he had to put up a shot. And
Not to mention he wasn't the first option on the play.
He wasn't the first option. But you know what? He created some separation. He got a good look. Even against Portland, he was the main guy to go to. But you know what? He was dominating that matchup against Robert Covington all night. The fact that you were able to get in the lane in crunch time. Like, I saw a screenshot earlier today from someone sent this to me. It was a screenshot of that play when Siakam's going to the basket. There's nobody open. Yep. The paint is like this. The only potential option on a play that you can make is maybe giving it to OG in the corner.
Yeah.
But OG's being guarded by Lillard.
Yeah.
So with a few seconds left on the clock, there wasn't many decisions, and he got good looks. They just rimmed out.
And to your point about the Raptors' lack of options, now with the lack of options that you have, right, losing guys like Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol, and then obviously previously Kawhi Leonard, who was a great isolation player, without the lack of passing options, like to your point about like yesterday, when we were watching the Portland game, right? Who does, for example, a guy like Pascal Siakam have? He has in one corner Stanley Johnson, right? In another corner, like Terrence Davis or whatever. Right?
Or hell, times Utah Watanabe.
Yeah, like the lack of options has led to an increase in isolation play. And we know the Raptors like passing the ball, but this season they're in the bottom half of the league in assists because of the fact that now you're more reliant on isolation plays. And sure, Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, Pascal can do that, but we know Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet are smaller guards, right? They're not gonna have Fred, yo. They're not gonna have the success that you want from, for example, like an isolation bucket getter like Jason Tatum, who's much bigger than them.
Yeah.
Pascal Siakam is still learning his role. He's still trying to figure it out. So you don't have any options in the isolation where you've been forced to play a lot more of that.
And Pascal's not really an ISO type of player. He's a transition player. He's a player that works so well in the transition because he's unstoppable, especially when you can get him inside. Against Portland in particular, when the Raptors ran the offense through Pascal, things just looked so much better. Pascal was dominating the interior. Nobody was able to stop him inside. Then on top of that, it's creating open opportunities for guys like OG, Kyle, Fred. By the way, shout out Fred VanVleet. He's been amazing this season.
Yeah.
Portland game wasn't really that great, but you know what? He shut down Steph Curry. Yes, he shut down Steph Curry. Yeah. Steph Curry had an off night, but you know what? Fred was chasing him all game.
He did a number on Damian Lillard,
He did a number on Damian Lillard. Again,
the stats won't show it, but Damian Lillard did not have the impact that you wanted.
I was scared of Damian Lillard in that game going off because
he was CJ McCollum went off. That was our problem.
But
yeah, back to the point about having playing much more isolation. Having no options on offense and no isolation type of players has led them to a terrible field goal percentage. Right now, as we're making this episode, they're 27th out of 30 in terms of field goal percentage. You're not going to win games like that. If you're shooting, and
a lot of these are open looks, man. I can't get over that. The fact of the matter is the Raptors got to hit open shots.
44%.
That's
you're not winning anything.
Bad.
You're not winning anything shooting 44%, right? And then again, to our point about without any options, this West Coast road trip has been better in terms of the team's morale. But as we've seen,
morale and performance.
In the fourth quarter, they still can't do anything. Why? Because they have no closers. They have no isolation type of players.